Alright guys, so we'll start over here on the buttstock right here. I went ahead and trimmed off the edges of the corners on the top and the bottom just to get a lot of that excess material out because it sticks out quite a bit farther. So by doing that, it makes the gun easier to mount and dismount by you're not catching it on your shirt or anything else that you might be wearing or have on. So it has actually made a really big difference when I was testing it out. So moving on further, I did my stippling on the pistol grip, or the pistol area portion, so you might have noticed that in some of my other videos. What I also did was I did this whole top section up here. There wasn't really a guideline for this area, so what I did was I took about a 3 or 4 inch circle, just kind of laid it right there, made a pencil mark, and then stippled that line first, and came out fairly well. I went really lightly on their factory lines because I liked the design on it. So I kept that in there so that way it still had that signature look, and then I also did all the way around the bottom too and right up to the receiver in there. So I personally use a really fine point when I'm doing the stippling. I just like the texture that it gives for it. So next up into this section, I went ahead and bought the MOA double-sided safety right here, which is a really big difference from the factory one that comes on here. It is a lot stiffer, so I believe they open theirs up about 10% more or something like that, so that way it has a little bit smoother actuation of it. Okay guys, another modification I did is right here on the lifter. You can see I put a curve into it, and that curve does have purpose. What it was doing before when the lifter was straight is it was going too far below this little feed ramp down here, and it would catch a little bit on the shell case at the end of the shell, and sometimes it would slow it down, sometimes it would catch and actually cause me to fumble the second shell going in there when I'm quad loading. So what I did was I just bent it smooth enough further back right here so that it got a nice ramp up into that shell tube right there without catching anything on it. So there was a purpose in that bend, and like I said, do it over a gradual period of time so that way it's a lot smoother when you're feeding the shells in there. And it actually, when it's pressed in here, lines up really well with the trigger guard, which I still haven't really notched yet because I'm honestly kind of happy with the design of it going right into the loading port right here. I haven't had an issue with it really catching my thumb too much because I did push my loading port up a little bit further, and we'll get into that right now too. So the other thing I did on the trigger though was I did notch this center area to give the shells somewhere to sit on their way down when they're riding the slide. So go into the loading port. This is just a rough finish on the loading port. It is polished right here. You can get it a lot shinier than that. You can get all those scratches out too. I'm just running this the way it is done right now because I kind of like to tune them to feel. So I got this one to where I can get my thumb across the shells and everything without having to really stuff my thumb into the shell tube. I can just kind of wave my hand past it and they magically go in there. So like I said, I'm not completely finished with it. It is good enough to just quad load, you know, as much as I can right now and still be happy with it. But what I'm thinking about doing is, because all this material right here, there is nothing behind it, so I think I'm going to open this all the way down to the Stoeger turkey stamp and blend it back up into this area a little bit further back, so that way it's just even easier for me to get my thumb into that area and it's even more exposed. So the one thing you do want to be careful with is that you don't take, sorry about that guys, you don't take too much out that the shells can escape the extractor that's sitting back there, or the shell retainer, so, which has also been modified. Yeah, so what I did was I trimmed back enough right here so where you could see the follower and you can actually see a lot more of the shell on there. Before you couldn't even see the shell when it was tucked away in here. So by doing that, I'm able to seat the shells past that extractor a lot easier because my hand is actually pushing all the way forward and I don't need to bend my thumb or stick it into that tube to make sure they've seated all the way. So and like I said, all those scratches can be taken out. I'm going to be probably doing this again. Right now I currently don't have an issue with the way this blends right here. I have pretty big hands, so I'm able to get over it fairly easy. I've seen a lot of people take this up a lot higher though and notch it out so it's even smoother for your loads. I really just haven't had the need. And this section right here is one of my favorite parts of the Stoeger, is how the foregrip is just so smooth into the receiver. I mean, it's really a nice feature for quad loading. So yeah. Another piece I changed out is right here, the extractor on the bolt. I changed the spring and the extractor. These are actually a BENELLI spring and extractor. Sorry guys. I did another video on it. I'm really happy that I switched it over. It's just, I've not had any issues with it whatsoever. So I mean, it's a really good modification to do. I'll put the part numbers down in the information on the video down below. So the other thing I did was a homemade match saver right there. I haven't had any issues with it. Cost me nothing. I had the kydex and the screws already laying around, so cool little project to do. You guys have already seen the stippling I did on the foregrip. Okay, we also have the Nordic components extension tube. This is the +4, which gives me a total capacity of 8 in the tube. I plan on also getting the +5 for a capacity of 9, and then the +8 for a capacity of 12 in the future, so that way I can switch around between the 3 and use whichever one I'm feeling like using that day. Next up, we also have the front sight I switched out. This is the HIVIZ front sight. I'll put the part number down in the info below as well. I'm really happy with it. I'm using the smallest green dot right now. They come with a pretty cool little package. Gives you quite a few of them right here. So these are your selections that you have to choose between the few. You got 3 reds, 1 white, and 4 greens. I personally use green. Green means go to me, so I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to go. I really don't use the front sight as much anyways. It's more of a reference. If I know it's in my sight picture, I'm doing well. So, unless I'm shooting slugs. Alright guys, that's about it for this one. I'll let you know if I do any other modifications, and you may or may not see one for the trigger, a complete video for the trigger by itself. Alright, have a good one.